Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to build another quick solar node with a seed. I had a few of these. This is NRF52840 Seed Meshtastic kit. So I'm going to build a Meshtastic node for now, but you can load mesh core on those too. And I'm going to put it in this waterproof case that I have here. So this isn't a self-printed case, it's a nice real waterproof case. So I'll have to drill a hole to put the antenna and the bulkhead on there, and the antenna connector and the antenna itself. And I'll use this little solar panel, 2-watt solar panel, which I'll mount on the front. But I want to use a bigger battery, and I want to use this 3500 milliamp hour battery on it, in one of those. But this the charging circuit inside this little seed node over here doesn't have battery protection on or anything like that. So it's not a good idea to let it charge, a big battery like this. You would rather use something like this, which is I think it's a TP4056, which is a MPPT charge controller, which is really cool. They have input from the solar panel, and then to the battery, 2 wires goes to the battery, and then output to the in this case the seed, which I will connect via a little battery wire, and I'll show how I did that. But this is a MPPT charge controller that will properly charge this battery and make sure that it doesn't get overcharged and take care of all of that. And then the output of this just goes into the little node. So that will be, that will be much safer than having the node charge the battery directly. And then I just printed these little cases. This has got like this pegboard backing there, but I made these little prints which go in there, and then I'll just to be fancy, so I can put these in there. And they actually go into little holes over there. The pegs go into holes, and then I can neatly mount my little node and my charge controller in here. So let me get going on that. First thing I'm probably going to do is just drill the hole for the top here. So this is the antenna connector, and let me get my drill. And it's a 5/8 drill, so that I think is the right size. So I'm just going to drill a hole straight in the top, and that's where the antenna is going to be. So I always like to make it, let it open this way. Of course I can drill on that side and then it will open that way, but I always build mine to open this way, so the hole has to be on this side. And I don't want the hole too low or too high. It's sort of got to be in the middle, and it's fairly simple. And there we go, the hole is drilled. And that means my wife's not going to enjoy all the stuff lying around, but and that means I can take this little antenna pigtail, and what's nice about these is they actually have a little rubber seal over here. So if you pull them against there, and there you can see that the rubber seals over there, so it makes it waterproof, which is very nice. So I'm going to put that guy on. Oops, I think it goes the other way around. I think it's first the grippy one, then the spring lever one, and then of course I'll go pull this a little bit more tight with some pliers or something. So there's that. You've got the antenna. I love these Alpha 915 antennas, since I use 915 megahertz. You can see it's a nice beefy connector there, and that just screws on top there, and gotta make sure it screws on correctly. There we go. There we go. It's screwed on. I gotta go tighten that nut, and there we go. At least that part's done now. Now let me. The next thing is, this is the solar panel, the 2-watt solar panel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it on the front here, on the front of a case like that. So, but this wire is way too long, so I'm actually just going to cut this wire shorter. Oops, let me get all of this stuff out the way for now. I'm going to cut that wire quite a bit shorter, let's say over here somewhere, like that. So that's all extra now, and I'm going to strip these wires so that I can connect them, and I'm going to drill a hole in the front here. So I'm going to mount it and then drill a hole through here to put the wire through. And these little solar panels, they, what's inside is really just the 2 wires, positive and negative. There they are. And that is what I'm going to connect then to the MPPT controller on the inside. So let me drill this hole, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I've got that little hole drilled, and I've got the wire through there. There's the wire now. I'm going to try and solder these wires then onto the MPPT charge controller. So I'm just soldering these two. I hate soldering, actually. TBH. And then here's the MPPT controller, and we got positive on this side, negative on this side. I could have put the little USB-C, made the wire shorter and just put that back on, and that would have plugged into the USB-C port over there. But in this case, I'm just going to solder the wire. So just going to solder this guy there. This is harder than it looks on camera, trust me. It's not easy to do this under the camera thing. Okay, let me see. There's positive, and I should just get my clamp, but nope. I want to make this hard. There we go. Okay, positive and negative is soldered on there. Then this is going to go to the battery input on the seed. So this is a little, I just put a little plug on there just to make sure that I can do that properly. So let me get that soldered on there. So if it has this little plug, you can just use a straight wire, of course, but if you have this, then I can unplug it, and gives me a few options. So move that out the way. So I'm going to solder this to the battery, to the output ports, and there's output positive on this side, and there's output negative on this side. It doesn't look like I have enough solder there. Let me get that going. Output positive and output negative. There we go. These little chips are a dime a dozen. They're really cheap. And then, of course, the battery, I've also got to get mounted on there onto the charge controller. So like I said earlier, there's really 6 wires here. There's the solar input wire, and then there's the battery wire, and then there's the output wire, and there's the output wire to the little node. So let me get this one soldered on here. And this is the battery input, and I should maybe, you know, usually I put a little fuse on it, but for now I'll just I'll forego the fuse, and I'm just going to solder. So that's battery positive and that's battery negative. There we go. At least that part of the soldering is done. We've got now solar power coming in from a solar panel into the input, then the battery going into the battery ports over here, of the battery pads, and then the output. This has got to go to the little node. Now the little node, the seed nodes, and usually, you know, other nodes you would just plug it into the battery plug, but because these are so small, they actually are divided like this. That's the radio part, SX1262 radio. This is the processor part, and it has 2 little pads down the bottom there for battery plus and battery minus, and I'm going to connect these two from the charge controller to there. But I'm not going to do that on camera because those pads are so small. So give me a few seconds and let me do that. Right, finally did it. See, there it is. The 2 little wires are finally soldered on there. I don't want to do that on camera because I'll say inappropriate words, you know, which isn't good. So I'm also going to remove now the little IPX over here. That's the antenna that this node comes with, which is this little flat little thing like that, cheap thing. So and I'm going to connect then the real antenna. I'm going to connect that there. Oops, that has to press down. And okay, there it goes. It's clipped on there, and then I got to clip this back. It's got a little mark there that says the USB-C should be that way, which I will put it back like I found it. There it is. Now we've got the antenna connected, we've got the battery wire connected, and now I'm going to mount it in this little thing that I 3D printed, and I'm just going to put some double-sided tape at the bottom of this to hold it on there. So you know, I use this kind of tape, doesn't need much of it. So there it is. That's actually too much. It's got the piece off, so very frustrating, this tape, to get the edges off. So I'm putting it on there like that, and I'll try and make these little 3D prints if you want to use the same kind of case. It just makes it a little bit neater to put together. You know, when you want to take the stuff off, it's always a problem. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to just mount this on there, boom, and I'm going to place this on the little board, let's say over there. Antenna goes that way. Let's place it, let's say over there, and click, it goes into the board at the bottom, and this one's on top. There we go. Great. Now let's mount our MPPT over here. We can do it either way, doesn't matter. Probably I'm just going to mount it this way. So I need double-sided tape again, a piece of that. It's too long. Take a piece off. Just going to stick that at the bottom there. We're going to again go through a frustrating process. Oh, that time it worked pretty fast. Like that. I'm going to just mount it in there, and I'm going to mount this guy, let's say next to it over here, like that, or one up. There we go. That's it. So there's our little node, there's our MPPT controller, here's our battery holder, here's our battery wire, which I'll connect to the node, so the node can receive power from the controller. Now I'm just going to glue down or tape down the the battery holder. Okay, so I think in the middle there's a screw, so I have to do this on both sides, one on each side. So one, let's say one this side and one this side. And the great loving part of removing there we go. That's frustrating. That one. And on this side, let's remove. Oh, yeah, it doesn't stick so well to this type of plastic. I don't know what's going on. There we go. Right. And I'm going to stick that in there. That doesn't really stick that well because there is this thing at the bottom, this screw. So maybe I'll stick it a little bit higher. I'm going to put this pad back, and I'll just these pads just want to glue everywhere, so I'll put it over, let's say there. Boom. Yeah, that sticks down, that glues it down. Okay, there we go. Battery. So it goes battery into MPPT controller, solar panel into MPPT controller, output from here to node. Node has antenna. So always make sure you have an antenna before you power anything up. So I'm going to make sure also that I have my polarity right. This battery, this side's plus, that's a plus side, that's a minus side, so make sure that I have that right. And I'm going to insert that, but these controllers, MPPT controllers, need a little bit of sun to get them started. So before anything's going to happen, and you can actually see there's a little LED coming on, and but it needs a certain amount of power before it will actually start providing power to the node, the output. So let me just hold this in the sun for a second and get it bootstrapped. And there we go. I literally just held it in the sun for a second, and that means the MPPT controller now reads the battery, it's booted, and it's booting the node. You can actually see the little green light flashing over there. So this has Meshtastic on it as far as I know, but I can upgrade it. The only task left now is really just to mount this solar panel on the outside. I'm thinking maybe I'll just drill another hole over there and put a screw and a nut through it so it's on there properly. And then, so there'll be another screw and a nut over here, but then I just got to seal this with silicone so that, you know, the thing's waterproof. So give me a little bit on that and I'll get that done. This thing is, of course, the only nut and bolt I can find. It's way too long, so I'm going to have to go Dremel this off so it doesn't, you know, go all the way through. So I'm just going to Dremel it off there somewhere. So give me a few minutes on that. Okay, there we have it, a much shorter version of the screw. So let me get this marked of where I want the panel to be. Mark it and drill a hole and get this mounted. Give me a few minutes. So I cut the previous one too short, so I got a longer one and a washer. This is actually turning into be the hard part of a bolt, is getting a little screw to just mount it on there. It's crazy. So I'm just not a hardware person, but okay, let's try this one. Yeah, I think I finally have it. So there's a little nut that goes through to this guy, and I'll still put, you know, a little bit of glue on the side just to keep it on there. But you can adjust these little screws to make the friction of a, you know, so you can actually angle it the way you like and then just tighten the screw, and that's where your solar panel will stay, you know. So pretty neat. So yeah, there's the complete build. This is now a completely standalone Meshtastic unit with that's waterproof. I will just put some water sealant, you know, silicone on here and here just to make sure it's 100% waterproof. But if it gets in the sun, it will charge the battery with the MPPT controller. That's a 2-watt panel, and then that provides power to the little node over here, the Seed Meshtastic node, and the Meshtastic node has an antenna that goes out, and you know, you can open it up and update the firmware with a USB-C port over there. And that's a 18650 battery, which you know, on this node that should last for about 2 weeks without sun. These things are very use very little power, these little nodes, so this thing should at least be 2 weeks on this size battery. And with the MPPT controller, it will charge this even with a very little sun. It will charge this battery. So that's it. That's a complete build. Hope you enjoyed that. That's a really simple build to do. And it closes and it's completely sealed. And you can put the little fasteners on and stick it on the roof or stick it on a pole or something. And it is completely self-sustaining. It generates its own power and does its own thing, and you can connect to it via Bluetooth and set up the app and then turn it into a solar node. So thanks for watching, and we'll speak again next time.